Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's happening here in the Concord area. I'm your host, Dick Patten. It's a pleasure to welcome you back as we now say goodbye to the month of May. Yes, May is gone like crazy. And say hello to June. And that means a half a year will have gone by when the end of the month gets here. And we all know what comes now is, of course, graduations and Flag Day ceremonies and whatnot, but for the school kids it means yay hooray, we're out of school for the summer, at least until August anyway. But with me today, I'm very pleased to have Howard Pearl. Now Howard is a man of many talents because he not only owns a very big maple producing farm over there in Loudon, but he also does summer vegetables from corn to squash to you name it. And he also became a new member of Concord Grange last night. And we're so happy to have him in there. And of course, then I guess the top of his title is he's a state representative, whether he wants to admit it or not. State representative representing Loudon and what, Canterbury?
I am Merrimack 26, which is Loudon, Canterbury, Northfield, Boscawen, and Ward 3 of Franklin.
Oh my God, you really stretch that far up.
I do. I have a floterial seat.
Holy mackerel. Now, isn't that strange? You have one ward in Franklin, and...
Yeah, it's the way that they set up the districts, with the extra folks, the extra voters, so they get enough communities combined together that are contiguous and make a floterial seat.
So you have Canterbury, Loudon, Franklin, Ward 3, Northfield.
And
Boscawen.
Yes.
But you don't go into Salisbury.
Nope.
And all that. So isn't that crazy, though? Well, you really had some campaigning to do then, didn't you?
It's an interesting district. I enjoyed it. Get to meet a lot of great people.
Yeah.
That, to me, is very fun. I enjoy the campaigning side of it.
Well, you're a people person. Where is Ward 3 of Franklin now?
That would be the side of Franklin that borders Northfield. That's how it's contiguous.
So that's up the other end then.
Yes, up around the hospital.
Oh, okay.
But the hospital actually, the hospital is not in Ward 3, but it goes basically down to it.
Oh, okay. So you're up near Northfield there by Winnisquam High School and...
Yeah, on that end of town.
Yeah. Huh, wow. Well, that really is different. Huh, interesting. Now, this is your first term, or are you in your second term? Or?
This is my first term.
First term.
Yes.
That's right. You were on my show, I'm sure of it, when you were campaigning for that. If I remember right, we had you on. I remember you coming on at one time before that. Well, that's good, though. Now, you represent the Republican Party, right?
I do.
Yeah, and we had Ryan Smith on here.
Yes, Ryan is
summer.
Northfield and Ward 3 of Franklin.
Oh, really?
And along with Representative Greg Hill. They're the two reps for there,
okay.
And then I'm the floterial.
Yeah. Huh, interesting. Now, in 2 years, well, 3 years, they'll be doing it all over again. How they'll redistrict that one, who knows?
Yeah, 2020, I believe it is, that they redistrict. Yep.
Or 2021, by the time they get done fucking messing around. But I don't know if they actually will do it during that election year or not. I have a feeling it'll be after the presidential is when they'll stop, but who knows? Well, I don't know. It'll be interesting because as many years as I've been in, not just legislature, but as a checklist supervisor or whatever here on the Heights, it's funny how that they have changed when they've done them, but because I don't know if they'd have to be in for the new session in 2021. I don't know how they do that.
I am not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I know they've had some rowdy dows when they've been trying to get them done. Well, because for a while I was in the floterial one because we had wards 4, 8, 9, and 10 combined. Then they separated us and made us all separate again with one floterial. But it's crazy how they do that. I just don't know,
It certainly is interesting campaigning.
And we've got one ward that's combined with Hopkinton, Ward 5.
That's right.
So it's crazy. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a lot of people to think about in there. But anyway, you serve on what committee at the state?
I'm on Environment and Agriculture.
Okay.
It was kind of an appropriate committee for me.
Well, yeah, because you are in agriculture, and that's good because it's interesting how the farms have changed. What's scary is that a lot of farming has gone, and some places they've turned. Now, maybe you can explain this to me, because I know there was quite a brouhaha over there in East Concord about the blood farm, because somebody bought it from Canterbury, and he wanted to subdivide it into house lots. But then he found out that there is an easement on that to the state, or to the, land conservation or something.
Yes, I don't recall who holds the easement, but yes, there is a development easement.
Yes, and so they can't develop it. They let him build one house way over in the corner there. I remember as you're going up Mountain Road. It's on your right-hand corner, way up, right up above there. Then there's one further out, but I found out that has nothing to do with their land. But
if I recall correctly, I think the issue was that he wanted to take down the original farmhouse and build a new one, still only having one house on the property, but in a different location.
Oh, really?
And the easement didn't allow for that. If I recall correctly, I think that was the issue.
I know he had built fences, and he had some horses in there, but then it changed, and he started having cattle in there. And then, of course, he passed away unexpectedly, I guess, last year.
Yes, I believe that land has now been sold. There's a new owner. Yeah, I believe so.
Who owns it now?
I'm not sure, but I'm quite sure.
What's he intending to do with it?
I think it's going to continue on in agriculture the way it has been. Yeah,
as a kid, I used to love going up that way because my father worked at the old tannery. And years ago, when my mother would drive up that way to go get him from work, because we always went across the Sewell Falls Bridge.
Yes.
And in that way to get him or something. And we'd always see the cows out in the pasture, and on both sides of the road.
Right.
He had that cow on that side, and he had the main one on the right side. But there was quite a lot of things there. And then, of course, they I don't know whether they sold off across the road or not, but they built a couple of houses, and then, of course, then a church bought the old, initially, it was cow barns there, or was it bulls? Maybe they raised, or some steer in there, or something they raised there. Then the Concord Community College bought that land and converted that into dorms and whatever else. Then they sold it, and then a church went in there, and it's still in there. They've changed names, but they're still there. But, it's just, I love to see the cows. I just love to see them in the pastures and stuff. It's just, my father was raised on a farm, and I don't know.
Well, I dairy farmed up until 1998.
That's what you said last night, yeah.
And then I made the choice to go over strictly into produce.
Did you have Holsteins?
We did.
You had Holsteins?
Yes. There were Guernseys on the farm, but they were sold out due to a positive TB test back in the 50s, and they converted to Holsteins at that time.
Now, what's Guernsey? What color are they?
I'm trying to think how to
What are the
describe
brown and whites?
Well, there's Jerseys. That may be what you're
that's
thinking
Jersey.
of. Yeah,
okay.
Guernseys are a little different color, a little lighter color.
Okay, yeah.
They're a good fat-producing breed.
Yeah, Jersey then. Huh, interesting.
High protein.
Used to love them. My grandmother lived in Salisbury. She had a small farm, and she raised pigs, chickens, and they had 2 or 3 milking cows, dairy cows. And we used to go up there and visit every Saturday, and it was just so fun to see them out in the pasture there. And
that was more the model of the farm in the olden days, was enough to sustain yourself and perhaps a couple of families around you.
And then initially, when Dad was born, he was born in East Andover. They had a 300-acre farm up there with more cows and stuff. But anyway, no, it's serving in the state. That's a good community for you to be on, because agriculture has, again, it's changed from what it used to be. I mean, people, rules of farming or producing meats or whatever. I mean, you've got to watch out for all these chemicals or how they slaughter the animals or something. I mean, it's really a big thing.
There's a lot to it. We certainly, we all want to be good stewards of the land and grow a good product and a marketable product. The markets really demand a lot on what we grow and how we grow. Yeah. Depending on what the consumers will buy and what they want on their table. That speaks very loudly.
Oh yes, and the chicken, like in Concord here, they allowed people to own chickens. Mm-hmm. They could own, I don't know how many they could have, but it went popular for a while, but I don't know if it's really as big as now as it was back then, for a few years ago.
It seems to come in waves.
I know. Because
you'll see people will have chickens and then they go out for a while and someone else will have some. But there seems to be, as you ride around, you see many places that someone will have a cooler out by the road with eggs for sale. It's not uncommon. They're certainly available locally in most communities, I'd be willing to bet.
We raise chickens and... Never again. I would never want to raise them.
Well, my dad was a chicken farmer along with being a dairy farmer. He had about 5,000 birds.
Oh, my God.
And they got out of that, thankfully, in the early 70s when I was young. And
I
was
know.
happy.
I would not. We had a lot of fun with you last night because during the Grange, but you told us a lot of things and people couldn't get over, like the maple syrup production.
Yes.
And compared to other years, this was not the best year, but it wasn't that bad either, right?
We made about 80% of a crop. It can vary. The interesting thing with maple is it can vary literally from one farm to the next because sometimes the climate is just a little bit different. It's a very finicky business. The temperatures have to be, they have to be close to right. We have a small margin of error for maximum production. So that's interesting. Now we employ a lot of technology in our farm. We have everything under vacuum. All of our taps are on lines, and they all have a vacuum pulled on them, which encourages the trees to run a little more, and that helps to mitigate some of those temperature swings. That helps us a lot, increases our production. But with anything, the more once you employ all that equipment, then your average volume that you're looking for it goes up, and you try to meet those numbers each year because there's a lot of extra cost in putting this technology in place and using it. Increased electric rates certainly, or electric use as well as just the cost of the equipment itself.
Did you ever do the buckets when you first started out?
We did. My dad also when he ran the farm. I'm the fourth generation of my family on our farm. Yes. Wow. And my grandfather, my father, we all did maple syrup, and obviously as the generations progressed, the tap numbers increased. My dad had about 5,000 buckets out when I was young.
Oh, gosh.
But in the 70s, we started to convert over to maple tubing. The sap tubing, so we had some of both. And I actually tapped buckets until I had a few out until I would say early 2000s, and then we completely switched everything over as we progressed with our changeover, and we started doing vacuum in the late 90s. And once we perfected that and kind of changed our whole layout, we were able to bring everything onto the vacuum system. So it's definitely different.
You're a man of many talents. Like I said, listening to you last night reminded me of myself sometimes because you're that, plus you're zoning board chairman.
Vice chair.
Vice chair.
Yes.
And then you have the choice seat of the House with the Speedway because you said if you look off from the top of the grandstand up, whatever, you can see your house.
Yes, we are east of the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and if you sit in the grandstands, ours is the big white house you can see up on the hill.
Now, you can't see nothing from your place?
I can. We're roughly 5 miles drive, so we're probably about 3 miles as the crow flies. I can see the cars on the track.
Oh, you can?
A little bit. We're starting to lose them. There's some trees that are growing up between their location and mine that are starting to losing that view, but I can fully see the grandstands, and it's very interesting on race day to see that as the stands fill and the colors of what the people are wearing, and it's quite interesting.
How dare those trees?
It's all right.
Now they're talking about having maybe a big country music festival out there?
Yes, that's in the works, and that is actually one of the applications we're going to hear at our zoning board meeting on Thursday night.
But do you think that would actually could really make a go of it versus the car race itself?
Well, certainly it would be a different level of income for the Speedway. It would be one of the steps they would take toward mitigating some of that loss or loss of revenue to their business and to the community of Loudon and to the state of New Hampshire. They are a big contributor to us in the community as far as real estate taxes, and to the state as far as their impact on the local community for rooms and meals.
But they would have to have some big name acts here.
My understanding is that's their intent. I'll have to, wait and speak to the application after the hearing, certainly.
I mean, the days of having Loretta Lynn and what's his name there, not Kenny Chesney, but George Strait.
I thought you were going all the way back to Conway Twitty.
Well, he's dead. So that'd be different if they had him out there. That would definitely be different,
right.
Howard. But there again, see, I'm from the generation that if you had the Statler brothers, they've retired, of course,
right.
But they were my favorite. Of course, Dolly Parton, she's a big name draw now, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know if she's still performing now or much or not.
Yeah, they said she is, because when Whitney Houston made that, she sang that song that Dolly wrote, that really put her back in the limelight again. And then, of course, Porter Wagner died, who she was on his show years ago. But the country music today, to me, is not the country music I was brought up on.
Right.
The days of listening to Roy Acuff, Minnie Pearl, Loretta Lynn, Kitty Wells, some of that whole conglomerate. I mean, it's different. Like you got now Rascal Flats.
Yeah.
Flats. You've got Brooks and Dunn still going.
I'm not sure. I think you're moving up more toward Florida Georgia Line. And
Yes,
those types
they
of
were
bands.
on TV tonight, and then it was Kenny Chesney there and Brad Paisley.
I think those would be the acts you'd be more likely to see them bring in. I will say this: when the New Hampshire Motor Speedway does something, they do a first-class job of it. They always have. They've been a great neighbor to me and to the town of Loudon. I've always enjoyed having them there. Obviously, there's days with the race traffic. A couple of weekends a year, you have to accept that there's going to be a significant increase in traffic. But they've always done a very good job at controlling that and trying to mitigate its effects on the community.
Now, I would be very shocked. Now, I know there was a speedway down, was it Bristol, Tennessee last year that hosted a football game between Virginia Tech and Tennessee.
Oh, yes.
165,000.
Yep.
How in the world can you create a football field? I don't know how they did it.
I don't know.
Really? I mean, that's what they did, but they had 165,000
It's impressive.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a large infield area that's fairly flat. Even at Loudon, they do. Certainly, there could be room enough for a football field in there, easily. But
I can't imagine having that in New Hampshire.
yeah,
So, I mean,
I've not heard any plans for that to occur.
Of course, if Michigan was there, I'd be there in a minute. But, but I just don't see that happening with that.
Now,
But,
I do know the plans that I have seen for the music festival would not be in the racetrack itself. It would be in the parking area. They would sort of set it up
really?
completely independent of the racetrack itself.
I mean, they're really, other than the NASCAR, I mean, unless they got the Indy cars back here again or whatever, what else is out there that could come in the racing circuit?
Well, there's certainly some of the lower tiers. You have the ARCA, the American Canadian League, and there's the rally cars, and there's the modifieds. Actually, in my opinion, they're the best race of the whole weekend anyway when they run. I enjoy them more than
What's
I do
the modifieds?
They're the open wheel cars. They're not the same as the F1 cars or the Indy cars that you were speaking of, but they're local guys, a local northern circuit, and they're really fun to watch.
Really?
I enjoy them.
I mean, I just feel bad to see a big facility like that lay dormant. you know.
Well, they're still going to have the one race. You know, most of the NASCAR tracks only host one major race a year like that. That's not uncommon.
Well, they have the motorcycles out there too.
They do. That goes on in June. But it certainly will be a hit to the community, no question. But I know I've spoken with the general manager, and he's met with us as his delegation, and certainly his intent is to try to fill that void and, you know, still be a productive member of the community and for the state and for the track itself, to keep that venue busy and a top-notch facility for New England. They are the largest sporting facility in New England.
Well, yeah.
But they have actually removed some seats. They've downsized some.
Where'd they remove them?
On the north section of the Laconia stands, they took out some. I want to say they've taken out 10 or 15,000 seats now.
Really?
Yeah, they were up over 100,000.
Because they just weren't selling? Or?
Yeah, they decided to use the they didn't need them anymore and decided to use that for different use.
Now, are they going to start in the fall again with the Christmas lights?
Yes, I believe so. As far as I understand, they've done that for several years now, and that's a great fundraiser for the Speedway's children's charities. I actually was the vice president of that board of directors on that for a few years. Enjoyed that. Great charity. They've now raised over $1 million since their inception and given back into the community in the sense of New England. They do it through a grant process, and I very much enjoyed my tenure on the board. It was a good time.
I know. I look forward to their support. I mean, I get a donation, but boy, I tell you, as I told you last night, I tell you, it's going to be a real hard year this year for us because because of those stupid vandals last year, and we've got to replace stuff. But anyhow, it's good because it's good for the economy and things, and people do shop, they do buy, no matter what it is, But and then of course, again, you go back to the agricultural part of it. I mean, sometimes I think people think that agriculture is a dead issue up here, but yet it kind of must be still in the top area there, bringing money in. I mean, raising money, selling farm products. Oh,
agriculture is certainly still very viable in New Hampshire. In fact, I'll give you a tidbit of info. The Merrimack County, which is where we're located, is in the top 100 counties for the United States for agricultural dollar production.
Really?
And a lot of that is related to our greenhouse industry. We have two major players in the greenhouse industry, and they generate a lot of revenue. And the other tidbit I'll give you is, what state do you think has the cornfield that's closest to the State House?
What state?
What state has the cornfield closest to its State House?
Okay, now. Is it New England or is it West Coast?
It is New England.
Well, it's got to be Massachusetts.
It is New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, really?
Because at our State House, we have the cornfield right there. You ask that question, everyone thinks Midwest, corn.
Yeah, Iowa especially.
But New Hampshire.
For God's sakes. Never would have thought that. But that's not really feed. I mean, that's feed corn, right?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's still a cornfield.
Yeah.
But it's just one of the little fun facts.
Yeah, not a riot. I know, because we keep hearing rumors about them maybe going to convert that into commercial stuff, and I hope not. I'm not sure. Some part of that is city-owned. I don't know if it all is or not. It may be. I hope not.
But it's in the floodplain, so they're going to have some issues, or certainly that provides some concerns about development.
I know we got paperwork that the transportation's got to have some public hearings coming up about expanding 393 and well, this is my doctor's office calling. We're gonna cut for just a minute.
Yeah.
Hello.
Doctors are important. Not a problem.
It is.
We're off.
Okay.
Mine, because it's been buzzing like crazy.
Yeah.
Short intermission.
Yes. At least didn't ask me to sing or something.
How talented are you?
Well,
you do, yeah.
I'm not sure you'd want me to sing. It wouldn't be terrible, but it wouldn't be great either.
Not a karaoke.
And where'd you get that from?
I am not. Boy, we've almost filled a half an hour, haven't we?
Yeah, I like literally only have like.
All right, then I'm going to challenge
4
that
minutes,
because
5
he's not
minutes.
my medical doctor. See, my medical, and I could see that,
They could just hold up.
but he's not. He's
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, but he's not the medical doctor for me. But anyway, I'll take that up with them.
You could have just
and
left it
I'll
on.
be
and we
seeing
could
my
have
lawyer
Dick's
Friday
discussion of
anyway.
it.
But,
The outtakes for later. You know?
Yes. The blooper reel.
Discussion about the future.
oh yes. And who's your legal
So,
counsel that says that?
Can you send me a link
Will
to
you
this
find
on
that
YouTube?
out then, please?
Yes, I'll take your card. And actually, I need more
But I'm
cards.
going to challenge you on
So I'll get your
that.
name right stuff too.
Anyway. All right. I do enjoy
That's,
Dr.
so,
tremendously.
You only have a YouTube
so.
channel?
But-
We have Facebook.
And that's
Okay.
the reason why I
upload it on
trusted
YouTube and I
him.
put it on
But I
Facebook.
will,
Oh, I
he
see.
will
So
be
it's
involved in
easy
my
to
legal
find at the very
paperwork
least.
Yeah.
somewhere.
But
I'm just
that's,
not going
or
to tell
email
you
me,
anymore or
but
tell
I
him.
Make
He
sure
will
I get all
be
your
involved
information
in
right
it,
too.
though.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
Is this mostly
nope. I'm not going to
For
do you guys
your
nothing anymore after what you've done to me.
agricultural?
But
Yeah, that's my
he will be-
legislative
I
card.
will tell
That's what you
him
guys are
that
kinda
he
talking
will
about
be
today.
involved in my
I don't know
legal
what title to
paperwork.
give you really, so.
Thank you very much.
Just awesome everywhere guy.
I don't know about that.
We can continue on.
Sorry. Okay. Let's give it a second here.
How many minutes do we have left?
You get about like 4 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
So, go ahead back into your conversation. If you remember where you picked up from.
No,
I'm not
I
sure.
forgot what we were talking about. Oh, I know. Yeah, 393, 93.
Yeah.
About expanding those roads. You know, I don't know how in the world they're going to expand. You know, and for some reason the state has something against commuter rail.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen a state that doesn't want commuter rail.
Well, I know we only have less than 4 minutes left here, but I'll give you another piece of my background that I haven't shared with you. I used to own the fertilizer plant down on Commercial Street where we were serviced by rail. And the city actually purchased that piece of property from me in 2011 or 12.
Where was that? Near Concord Lumber?
Near the Friendly Kitchen. Well, Concord Lumber's on the other side.
Oh, yeah,
I
okay.
used to own that
oh,
area
oh,
down
the used to be the
The Agway plant.
Agway, but there was what was the one across there? It was
Lockwood Young Concrete was there.
Yeah, okay.
And there was a garage in there. And so
Yeah.
I owned a section of that in
Did
there.
you?
And I ran a fertilizer business there and in
Oh.
Massachusetts for about 10
Oh,
years.
for goodness sakes.
And we distributed fertilizer into
Yeah.
the local community. Agway was selling out and going to close the plant back in 2001, and I purchased it and ran it for 10 more years. Unfortunately, we just couldn't keep it open. The farm community is shrinking, and
Yeah, I know.
unfortunately, some of the support businesses have to shrink with it, and so we became a victim of that as well.
It's just too bad, though.
Well,
You know.
things are changing, and it causes us to be more resilient. And I always look at that challenge as a way for me to do better and be better, and be more efficient, and try to achieve more.
But the traffic, though, especially, I mean, going down to Boston or whatever, it's like, you know, that would help get some of the cars off the road if you had, you know, the trains. But I don't know. I just don't understand it.
Well, actually, my tie into that was the city purchased that piece of property because they want to continue
Yeah.
the expansion
Oh,
of
yes.
Depot Street
Oh, yeah.
through.
Yeah,
so
through
that was
that,
in their
through,
long-range plan, and when the
Oh, naturally.
property became available, to kind of ease the burden on Main Street.
Yeah.
I assume that's still on their
Oh, I imagine so.
plan
I
somewhere.
imagine So, yeah. Well, good. So I appreciate you coming on. And I'm going to get now. Howard is being a Grange member now. I'm going to have you give you this book.
All right.
That's a history of this 125th history of the State Grange.
Well, thank you.
Now, John Sadley wrote that one. That was his last duty as historian before I was named state historian. He retired, and he compiled. He did like 3 books, and there's a lot of history in these books. But that one, and I've got an extra one, so you can have that, and that'll give you a little idea about what the Grange has done over the years. And
Well, thank you, and thank you for welcoming me in
oh,
last
we love
evening.
it. We're so
I enjoyed
happy.
it, and look forward to all that it brings in the
Yeah,
future.
well, we're so thrilled, and we, like I said, you were quite the topic of conversation last night. But, well, I mean, it's just nice to have somebody who can contribute so much of knowledge of agriculture or farming or whatever, and you know, a lot of people just don't have that. So,
Well, I have a background in agriculture, certainly with the farm, and I've served currently on the State Farm Bureau Board as their treasurer. I've served in my county farm bureau
Yeah.
and served on the New Hampshire Maple Producers Board of
Sure.
Directors for many, many years. And so I've tried to be active within my industry and
That's
the
good.
sporting organizations.
that's going to be good. So, with that in mind, I want to thank Ian Marx, my director, and don't forget to watch us on Facebook at facebook.com/Concord Speaks. And I'm your host, Dick Patten. Enjoy the day, and we'll see you soon on Around Town.